Oh. Welcome back, nerds and turds, to another live stream repair. This isn't Mark H, this is actually Mark S. In any case, we've got a couple of HomePods from a couple of Marks today. And one from Lewis. Two of which with no power, one with some flatulence. We're going to kick things off with the no power one. And despite the different issues that we'll be fixing today, the actual, ironically, will probably be the exact same between all three. So these two with no power are most likely the usual dead diode that fails on that amplifier board inside. And they fail for no other reason than simply just a bad batch of these diodes floating around out there. The ones within a certain date code on that diode are the ones that are failing. And then we've got the death farts, which is the second most common issue with these HomePods, is when the ceramic filtering capacitors on the amplifier that are supposed to remove DC voltage from the audio signal. Naturally, ceramic capacitors decay over time, so these are no exception. Unfortunately, their role, however, has zero tolerance for failures like that, so more and more DC voltage is allowed through the amp over time. That results in a louder pop as it wakes up or goes to sleep. Eventually, that actually cooks the subwoofer. We could spend all day talking about these problems, their hardware issues, and why these things happen, but we'll go ahead and jump right on into these repairs. We don't want to be here all day. And for the most part, the problems that HomePods experience aren't unique to electronics. They just present themselves, of course, in a way unique to the HomePod. So, in any case, we're going to get this one opened up. And just like the other two that we'll fix up today, they're all going to get new ceramic capacitor filters to keep those death farts away. Since this HomePod and most likely the other ones haven't been opened yet since they were first manufactured, they absolutely have their original filters, which by now we are seeing quite a few of them get to that point where they cause more issues than they prevent. So we've had to take a number of these HomePods back as well, because we used to only replace those filters whenever they tested bad. If they tested fine, we didn't bother, as you should in electronics repair. If it's fine, don't replace it. Don't add risk and more problems and complicate things. But within a matter of months, we've had ones that were testing good still go bad. So it's okay. I mean, HomePods were manufactured as early as like late 2017, early 2018. So between the time and the nature of the part itself, they all, it's bound to happen for them all to. Alright, I don't know what's going on with this screwdriver. For them to naturally decay. So we like to get a step ahead of that. We'll see with, let's see, the other Mark's HomePod here, they have already gotten to the point of death farts. So his filtering capacitors have already gone too bad, and they're letting too much DC voltage through, which the amplifier attempts to temporarily rectify by forcing a restart, which is, and it'll play that death fart sound that everybody's so familiar with. So hopefully for the other Mark, his HomePod's subwoofer is still good. We got to it in time. If your HomePod starts death farting on you, then you need to unplug it and get it fixed before it causes more problems. Because DC voltage is not good for amps or speakers. Where is my metal pry tool? This is not good. Guess I'll go grab my backup. Found it. I don't know why, but it was on the couch. I was probably doing something and just forgot. Oh, Ivan, welcome back. Just saw your chat there. Yeah, we sure are taking our time getting into this first one here, but I don't want to burn myself out. It's already like 80 degrees in this room, like 85. Alright. Time to get this subwoofer out. Take a quick peek with our nose at the voice coil, make sure this is in good condition. Yeah. Smells fantastic still. Yeah, and recently Apple declared the first gen HomePod as a vintage product, which is pretty wild to me. It feels like it hasn't been that long, and it hasn't compared to most of their other products. The first gen HomePod was put into an obsolete category seemingly sooner than typical for most obsolete products, but it's even weirder to me because I very rarely buy anything brand new, let alone full price from the manufacturer. But I do remember at the end of 2018, I believe, I could be totally wrong on the year, don't ask why, I'm bad at time. I think it was the end of 2018 when I bought my first HomePod, and it was after my boss had showed off his, and I was just blown away by the kind of sound that could come out of such a small device. I mean, it's not a full-blown, rock concert with 2 or 3 meter tall floor standing speakers from every direction, but again, for the size and the price, it absolutely blew me away. It was the best speaker I had ever heard for, you know, at its size. You know, I've heard nicer things that were much bigger, but nothing sounded this good at this size. So for my birthday, end of 2018, I think I went to Best Buy. I didn't go to Best Buy. Actually, I bought online for myself a brand new HomePod, first gen HomePod. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. And then I was like, man, this is really nice, but I wonder how much better stereo pairing is. Lo and behold, Best Buy accidentally sends me a second one for free. Merry Christmas. And I got to experience stereo pairing, and boy, if you like multiple monitors on your computer setup, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about when I say the first time I got to use 2 HomePods in a stereo pair was just kind of mind-blowing. It's so much better than just having 2. It's like a 4 times improvement, at least. Well, in any case, so I now have 2 HomePods, and I'm like, alright, I want more. I need more. But how do I get more without going broke? I went all out just buying one of them at full price. I can't afford more of these. I start looking into broken ones. There's not a lot out there, but there's one guy on YouTube with 2 videos spanning, I think, like 6 hours, taking a look at a HomePod, the most irreparable Apple device. He cracked it open, and he was able to diagnose and repair this no power issue with 0 information. So I'm wondering if it's an absolute stroke of luck if I go on eBay and I buy myself some broken HomePods, if I can fix them in the same fashion, if they have the same failure. To my complete surprise, I went on eBay, bought a couple of broken ones for like 20 to 40 bucks. Sure enough, same problem, same fix. I found my ticket, a way into getting my hands on more of these for less, for real cheap. That was game over. At the moment, I didn't have any idea of, you know, starting up a repair business on the side and offering this as a service for others. But here we are. I've done a few mods. Nothing terribly interesting. Like, we've taken the guts and strapped it to a cardboard box. But modifying, like, actual lower level modifying these things is a bit beyond our current expertise and kind of, frankly, time that we have messing around with it right now. If I had all the time in the world, oh boy, we'd be cooking up all sorts of crazy shit with these speakers. But I made a choice. We wanted a child, and I don't regret it. Boy, do I not have any time anymore, but I don't regret it. Alright, so we did our usual maintenance. We got those filtering capacitors replaced. Alright, I absolutely hate this this position. I'm going to have to change this back. There we go. Oh, that's so much better. Anyways, I see YouTubers breaking out like oscilloscopes and reverse engineering things, and ultimately that's the kind of level I want to be at, is being able to take things like this apart, stick a couple of probes on it, and figure out how to make it bend to my will at the lowest level possible. Long term, I'd like to completely ditch the Apple amplifier and power supply and logic board and find an aftermarket hobbyist amplifier that you can drop into the inside of the HomePod, wire up the speakers to it, and you're good to go. What it needs to have, though, is it needs to still support AirPlay 2. And between that and the number of channels and power that the speakers have in the first gen HomePod, finding an amplifier that fits inside and satisfies all those requirements has so far been impossible. We're very, very close. I think there's this company called Acrylic or something like that makes all sorts of DIY amplifier boards. And they've got some with AirPlay 2, but it's just too big still. Just barely. Alright. We've got new filters on here to keep the death farts away. We've got a new Schottky diode to fix the actual power problem. So let's get this back together. By the time we've got it all buttoned up, it should be nice and cool for us to give it a quick sanity check, and then we'll move on to the next HomePod. I don't want to play these games today. There we go. I've only got 30 to 45 minutes in this room before it heats up too much. And then after that, I've only got another 30 minutes or so of patience before I start cursing and sweating and swearing. So we gotta pick this up. If we weren't yapping, we'd be almost done with this by now. Man, you really do not value your free time the same way until you have a kid, and then it's like every minute counts. I kid you not. I gave her the nickname the 2-second timer because it only takes up to 2 seconds for us to leave her alone and her to start freaking out. Which is, it's okay for now, but we gotta figure out long term how to make her okay with that, because that ain't good. That ain't good for us, that ain't good for her. We don't want her having anxiety anytime we're not with her, you know? But she's getting to that age finally where we are feeling a little more comfortable with letting people like watch her and such. So hopefully she gets more whatever. Kid stuff. You guys probably don't care. I will say, I was not a kid person, and I kind of hated kids until I had my own, and then now it's just like, oh my god. You hear someone else's kid in public, like, making the same sounds that your kid made, and you look over at your wife, and your wife hears the same thing and looks back over at you, and you're both like stunned and excited and like, oh my gosh. Oh man, and hearing a baby cry in public used to absolutely trigger me. But for some reason, for whatever reason, and for my wife, it never bothered her in public, but for some reason, the roles reversed when we had our kid. Now, hearing a baby cry just does not bother me or faze me whatsoever. But it triggers my wife. It's so strange. I mean, that kind of makes sense for her, you know, biologically and all that. But for me, I get that there's also like biological. I think there's I don't know. I'm not a doctor. All right. What? Oh, you guys want you actually want to see if it works. All right, fine, whatever. Here you go. Let's get this next one opened up. I want some flatulence. Don't let your kids watch our stream without adult supervision. It's not that we're downright crude all the time. I mean, sometimes we can be, but more so, chances are your kid's going to take something we say out of context and you're going to go, what the? What did this? Where did you hear that from, Timmy? I'm going to be like, oh, I was watching this person. And like, it is not my responsibility to police what your children are watching on the internet, and that is where I'll leave it. And I got my own kid, so I really don't want to hear it.
I'm having trouble connecting.
But that I do like to hear.
I'm having
the sweet sounds of Siri having trouble connecting to the internet. Well, up next then is Mark E. This one should power on, yep. Right before it plays its startup sound, listen for how loud it pops. Oof. And then when I unplug it from power, that is particularly spicy. I can almost taste the voice coil from here. Alright. Let's shoot a couple emails so people can watch and get to fixing. Doobity doo, doobity pop. Alright. Mark E. Death Farts. Here we go. Oh yeah, we already tested it. It's quite poppy, ain't it? Alright, so this one is going to be pretty much the same thing. Except, in this case, instead of replacing those 4 ceramic capacitors as a preventative measure, this will actually be for a repairing purpose. At this point, those capacitors have actually already gone bad, but hopefully It just needs the usual board components, and we don't need to replace a whole subwoofer. Having to replace entire parts is when the repair costs a little more. Now, and if I could get my hands on replacement subwoofers without having to buy broken HomePods to harvest them, or pay $70, $80 by itself for a new one that's gonna come over from China. It'll work just fine, but I mean, nobody's gonna want to pay $80 for the speaker on top of the 70 to 90 bucks for me to fix it for you. So our only option is buying HomePods for parts in the hopes that we can essentially make our money back on the parts that we use and or sell from them. And frankly, between you and me, we as far as the cost of parts and that is all concerned, we make no money anywhere. The only place I make money is the actual repair charge itself. Anytime the repair costs more, it's just to kind of help offset how expensive the parts that are going into it. If you're getting the base repair fee, that's just my time. The only way I can make money on any of this is with my time and charging people for that time. And people are generally pretty happy to. I get people like, you need to charge way more for this. And it's like, how much more do you think people are really willing to pay to fix these things, my guy? I do appreciate the sentiment, but anymore, and people are just gonna want to buy a used one instead, which is just gonna put them further into a problem, because buying a used one, chances are you're not gonna get one that has had work done on it before, so it's probably gonna have bad parts inside waiting to give you more problems. As biased as it may sound, your best route if you want to get your hands on a HomePod is to get one that's been refurbished by a third party like myself, or just buy a broken one and have it drop shipped to us so we can fix it and send it to you. The only reason I don't mind buying a used or broken HomePod, obviously, is because I don't mind fixing them. It's just another day for me. Oh, sleep. What's up, my guy? Yeah, I do not know. And the less I think about it, the less of a problem it is. I don't like it. It's too hot for me. I like weather that doesn't require any, like, effort to be comfortable in. I'm talking basically t-shirts and shorts. If I can't be comfortable in that, I don't want to have to sit in front of a fan or worry about air conditioning or any of that. I don't like it. And especially, as you know, sleep, it's not a very common thing for houses in Washington to have air conditioning, so I think they passed that law a year or so ago recently where any new home manufactured has to come with a heat pump or something like that, air conditioning, whatever. But that doesn't help the majority of people in places that already exist, you know? So yeah, I do not like it, and I can't wait for it to cool back down. I put an exhaust on my cars. I did my part. Even my 40-year-old rat rod shitbox has an exhaust. I'm doing my part. All right. Ooh. Kind of toasty over there, ain't it? Look at that. Is this subwoofer actually still good? Yeah? That is surprising. What is the date code on our diode? It's a 42K dated diode, so we don't need to worry about replacing that. It's not going to fail and give us power problems. But, ooh. That's kind of dusty, too. Let's go ahead and get those filters replaced. You only use your AC when it gets up to 95? Okay, like... most of my life I didn't have air conditioning, but most of my life it usually didn't get any hotter than like 80, 85 degrees outside, so it was pretty easy to manage. But now we're getting this like 90, 95, 100 degree warning sometimes. Like this is a new problem. And we won't get into it, but yeah, I find myself needing air conditioning more in recent years than ever. And I've lived in the same place my whole life. So oh, just got a text message from Mark. I don't know if you're still watching Mark S, but I'll text you back as soon as we're done with our stream here. I'd rather have my PC on. Jesus Christ. Nah, the pro move is to power your house with power your air conditioning with solar. And it's like, who cares if the sun's not out during that moment? Like, the sun's not out, so you don't need the power for your AC. Because the sun's not out. So it's not going to be hot as balls. No! Oh, here we go. You go down. Yeah, that's a good capacitor. You You two need to separate. There we go. Trying to get some of that dust out of there. Okay. Let's fix this blown up 10 ohm resistor here. Yeah, I know it says 100 on it, but guess what? That doesn't mean 100 ohms. You freaking dingus, you freaking jackwagon, you freaking didn't look it up. You just kind of guessed and assumed, and you don't know any better. I'll tell you better. 100 is the case code. Not the case code, I'm sorry. 100 is the resistance value for this SMD resistor. You have to decode that value. 100 doesn't mean 100 ohms of resistance. 100 means 10 ohms of resistance. Get screwed. Don't ask me why it's like that. There's a perfectly logical and reasonable explanation why it's like that, and I don't know. I don't know what that is. What I do know is this sucker needs to exit the board. There we go. In pieces, of course, but let's get some fresh solder, install it on that board. Briefly. No, fiddlesticks. Okay. Whatever. It'll work. We're getting mega distracted from the task at hand here. No, it does not matter that that flipped upside down and we're installing it upside down. This is a non-polarized component, meaning we can install it any which way we please. It does not matter. Unlike the Schottky diode. Yeah, we're talking shit about you, guy. I mean, go ahead, man. Try installing that guy backwards and give me a call after. As for you, my sweet summer capacitor, it came like that from the factory, okay? Sweet. What you should do, and I don't actually suggest this because it's probably illegal, but you could totally, if you live in an apartment complex, right? Maybe I'm mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, if you live in an apartment complex, you could very easily, usually the sidewalk lights, like, I don't know about your unit, but when I lived in an apartment, our unit had like the sidewalk right in front with patio lights lighting the whole pathway. And what you could easily do, that shit runs on, just standard 120 volts AC. So, I'm not saying to do this, but in theory, you could easily tap into that power and conceal the tap for those exterior lights that the complex pays for, and in theory, power whatever you wanted off of that. Probably you could probably pull about 10 amps before you pop some sort of breaker, which you could get a decent sized air conditioning unit to run on less than 10 amps. Alternatively, just steal your neighbor's power. Straight up, just steal their power. If you don't live in an apartment, you live in a neighborhood, in a house, just steal your neighbor's power. Screw it. Run an extension cord from an outlet that's on the outside of their house to just your air conditioner. That way you've got plausible deniability. Oh, I was just just trying it, just testing it to see if it was my AC or my house, Kept popping my breaker. Did it pop your breaker? No? Oh, interesting. Well, if you don't mind, I'm gonna run it for just a little longer just to make sure. And I joke about this because it literally quadruples my power bill whenever I turn my AC on. We go from like $70 to $80 a month to freaking $300 to $400 a month as soon as that AC comes on. So you might be thinking like, well, why? Yeah. Yeah. It's not too humid here for those little like $20 to $40 Amazon misting fan deals. I bought a couple of them for when we drove across the country in a car with no AC. And as you would expect, it did not help at all. As soon as we got south and into the more humid areas, like 90+% humidity, and you're basically just blowing the same air into your face that you're already heated up from. But in Washington, at least, the humidity is much more reasonable here, and thus those misting fans are way more effective. And they're just little USB fans, so you can plug it into your PC. There you go, you got the best of both worlds. if we can get this second HomePod confirmed fixed in under an hour of being live, I'll be happy. If not, we're gonna quit forever. And we're never gonna touch another HomePod again. That's one hell of a gamble, if you ask me. Completely cease existence and basically suicide your business that you've been working on for years to build up. Over some clip farming. Guess what, though? We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Count me down. We're at 55 minutes, 30 seconds. Catch me. If we can't get this done before an hour, we're gonna quit. We're done. The people that have never watched our streams before are probably sitting there like, And the people that have watched our streams before are like, lol, whatever guy. Cool. That's it. We put this on. We screw that down. What electric screwdriver is that? First of all, welcome to the live stream. You've got a fantastic username. Second of all, this is the Miniware ES15. I absolutely, unfortunately, do not recommend it. I cannot tell you to avoid it any more than I possibly can right here and now, which is do not buy this thing. As nice as we make it look, I guarantee you, you have at least a 1 in 10 chance of getting one that works as good as ours does right here and now. And that is because the first one that we bought 2 years ago, we didn't buy it. It was gifted to us by a fellow customer, but it worked fine for about a year, and then it started giving me issues, so I reached out to them. I actually bought 2 replacements for myself, and basically, out of the 10 more units that I got my hands on between buying extras, buying more, and contacting the manufacturer and explaining to them my complaints, and them sending me multiple replacements, not a single screwdriver worked as good as the very first one that I got. Every single one since that one. Complete crap. You know what I ended up having to do? I ended up taking the motor out of my first one and putting it into one of the replacements. And the motor itself for whatever reason, either the first one I got had a super souped up motor that was really nice and nicer than what they normally put in it, or they switched the parts and like I don't know. I would be happy to recommend this screwdriver from this company without any sponsorships or whatever or referrals if it just worked consistently the way that my first one did. And I cannot give anybody any amount of confidence that the one that they'll buy will work as well as they see ours working here on the channel. So do not buy it. If you do it at your own risk. If it works as well as you see us work on it here on the channel, freaking fantastic. Look at that. Well, I saw it turn on, but I guess... Oh! Well, I unplugged it a little early, but as you could hear, or maybe as you could not hear, there's no longer significant popping. So this one is fixed, which means we're going to move on to our third and final repair for today from Lewis. And we finished in under an hour, so we get to keep our little side gig here going. Very nice. Alright, let's shoot some emails and get Lewis's HomePod opened up here. Alright. Lewis, let's see here. Lewis with no power. You better not be lying to me, Lewis. This HomePod better not power on. Because if it does power on, I'm not gonna fix it. Alright, so we got the usual power draw here for a dead diode, 6 watts. It's not lighting up no matter how hard we want it to. So, this is gonna get fixed. It's gonna get a new Schottky barrier diode rated for 60 volts, 7 amps. A little better than what Apple used, but not necessary. The only reason these diodes are failing, as I mentioned in the beginning of our stream today, is Diodes Incorporated's lack of ability to manufacture these to a consistent standard, because in particular there were 2 weeks these diodes were being manufactured and consistently fail on us, whereas any other diode, newer or older, continues to work just fine. with no other variables inside of these first-gen HomePods, what's that leave us to believe? What does that leave us to conclude? That not only did Diodes Incorporated completely screw up 2 weeks of diodes, of manufacturing of Schottky diodes, who knows what else? Well, whatever was in their water, we'll never know. But not just that, but if we know this, Apple certainly knows it too. They knew well before we did. And if they didn't, they certainly do now. And they still put this into an obsolete category instead of issuing a recall. Or a vintage. Sorry. It's vintage now, it's going to be obsolete. They've succeeded in sweeping all of these issues with the first gens under the rug. I called it 2 years ago when I started this business, and here we are. There's not much I can do. I don't have a massive social media presence. I tried. I got onto a few podcasts. I got a shout out by iFixit. I was on The Verge. But at the end of the day, and I said this at the beginning, but at the end of the day, there just weren't enough first-gen HomePod customers to raise a big enough stink that would force Apple to actually take action or be held responsible. You ask any judge in America right now what an iPhone is. You ask anybody in America right now what an iPhone is, and they're going to know what that is and tell you. They can tell you. But you ask anybody in America, let alone a judge, what a HomePod is, you got to explain it to them. They've never heard of it before. And that's how Apple got away with it. Not only one of their biggest failures of a product that somehow at the same time succeeded in what it was doing so well, but just not realized to its full potential. And then they were like, oh, we could have made this for cheaper. No one that buys these would generally care. And we can just ignore that the first gen ever happened without any of its problems, while keeping all of the worst qualities when redesigning it for the second gen. Like, how did they think that it was acceptable to allow a speaker, a $300+ speaker, to put itself into an irrecoverable software state that the end user couldn't save themselves from? That's an automatic take it to Apple and get them to replace it issue. Over something that should be as easy as putting it on top of an adapter and plugging it into your computer and clicking restore. Whatever. Let's get this fixed and get out of here. I don't even know what started me off on this whole rant. Probably the alcohol, but whatever. Let's get this fixed. We are inside the final HomePod for today. Let's do a little bit of maintenance first, and then we'll fix the actual problem. Filters in the form of ceramic capacitors. Don't know why Apple did this, but here we go. We're going to keep it that way until we've got knowledge to modify that to be better. Fiddlesticks. That's too close for comfort. Spicy. All right, that's good enough. Now we can fix their problem. Got a 48K dated diode there. That's the date code I'm talking about, 1748K. It's the 46Ks and the 48Ks that are consistently failing. That date code, 1748K, translates to the year 2017, week 48 of 2017. So week 46 through week 48 of 2017, Diodes Incorporated did not produce quality diodes to such a degree that they fail under normal operating conditions. What we do to rectify this, we don't just simply replace the diode. We replace it with a brand new one so that we know the same problem won't occur again. But also, this diode is different in two ways. Three ways. One, it's newer. Two, its manufacturing process is held to higher standards than what it's replacing. And three, it is rated for a higher amperage. So we are 99.9% positive that there is nothing wrong with the spec of the part that Apple used here. But if that is the case, this will cover it. So it's like a three-edged sword. A triple-edged sword. And with that, it should be permanently fixed. Alright, we are about out of time, but what we can do really quick is make sure that this is working so that we can charge the customer for the repair, get it tested overnight, make sure that it's fixed and good to go. Let's get this on. Feed that through. Get these reconnected. And we've got power. Alright, folks. We'll go ahead and end the stream here. I'll get this put together once I get a few more minutes later tonight. We'll test it overnight. It's all fixed up though. We've got everything fixed up today. No surprises though. Hope you all enjoyed this live stream repair.
Tengo dificultades para conectarme a internet.
And I will catch you in the next one.